Checking into the cannabis sector. This is another video, but I'm going to do a little bit something different here. In my other videos, I just analyzed all the different tickers in depth, but here I have specific tickers that I want to look at because I'm seeing some setups happening in the cannabis sector. Charting breakout setups, that's what I do. Like I chart different setups in all the different sectors. And I've been basically enjoying a lot of them panning out for me. It's kind of my thing. Anyways, this is why I've been interested in the cannabis sector, because we hit some bottoms. So I've been watching and waiting. We formed some solid support. Now we've broken through some resistance. We've come back down and we are forming these breakout patterns. So I'm starting to see some of these form, and this is what I'm going to talk about in this video. Now, before I get to the breakout patterns, let's take a look at Sndl, because this is going to help these patterns explode. Sndl this is after hours right now, and Sndl just had an earnings. I haven't seen the earnings, but clearly it was a pretty good earnings. So if this continues tomorrow, if we have continuation here, this could light a fire under the rest of the sector. This sector tends to run together, especially the Canadian big names that are on the large exchanges. So we will wait and see what happens tomorrow, but just this is something that is positive for these breakout setups, because what we need when we have a breakout setup is we need market strength. So sector strength is really going to help these. So what I was watching on Sndl was we had a big green day followed by another higher high, higher low, but then we pulled back a little bit, which is generally what we do before we break out even further. And then we had another day where we did make a higher high, but we didn't get through our resistance. So that was today. And of course, that is the psychology of earnings. That is indecision. That is people leaving before earnings. I was one of those traders that left before earnings reported. I did leave a little bit of lotto though on this case. I rarely play earnings, but this is a small little penny stock, so I left a little bit of something there to enjoy this earnings. So that is a little bit of good news, but I'm just really happy that Sndl had good earnings, because it could light a fire under this sector for the other positions that I have in this sector. So let's take a look at Tilray. This is just a picture perfect chart. We had a big day back here, we came down, we retraced, we never broke our bottom support, and then we burst back up, and now we are making a higher high here. So this is just a lovely little cup and handle pattern, and I drew it on here to make it obvious, and you can see this is what we want to break, this 1271. This is going to be confirmation that we're breaking out if we break this 1271. So this is what I'm watching in this position, and we'll see if the Sndl earnings can help light a fire under Tilray. If I was not in a position in Tilray, then I'd be watching 1216, because you can see that this has been significant resistance on this chart. So if we break this 1216, then I may possibly add to my position. And if I wasn't in a position, then this would be where I would look at scaling in. CGC, not as strong of a daily pattern here, but we have a little bit of a symmetrical triangle. I only say it's not as strong because it's only based on 3 days, and I like to see more than that. But if you flip over to the hourly, you can see that it is pretty good. If you flip over to the hourly, you can, and I'm looking at extended hours in this as well, and you can see it's a nice pattern. And I like this because we've tried to, I would tighten it up over here if we're looking at extended hours. And you can see that we've, broken it here, come back into it, broken out, come back in, held the support, held it here, and we just keep getting tighter and tighter and tighter, and we're coming to a break. So when patterns like this happen, generally they can break in either direction. The bullishness in the sector with Sndl earnings might help us have a bull break out of this tomorrow. ACB, we have been in for quite a while, this daily EQ. Let me just turn off these EMAs at first so we can take a look at it. We're in this daily EQ, which is a range. You can call it a range as well, where we've stuck in this pattern going sideways for a long time. So we've rejected it up here, came back down, broke through it, went back in it, rejected it, came back down. So this is pretty much our EQ, and we have broken out of it a couple times. So is this exactly the level? The reason why I like this one is because I like a double top right there. And so we broke out of that today. We broke out of this EQ today. We haven't seen any follow through. We need to break through this EQ and we need to see some follow through. But the reason why I'm calling this a setup is because we've broken through it and because we have a lot of bull volume. So if we look at the smaller time frame, we closed at the high of the day as well. So these are things that lean me in the bullish direction of this EQ, that we could break out of it tomorrow. And with Sndl earnings, it's also something to keep in mind with ACB. And now my EMAs are turned back on, and what you can see here is it looks like we are starting to get into a golden cross. So you can see that EMA 12 and the EMA 26 crossing up, while the SMA 100 is crossing down. That's a golden cross, and generally we have big rallies when we get a golden cross. There's so many of them in some of my EV sector videos, if you go back and look at those, that we just had a little while ago. So we're getting ready to have a golden cross here. So that is another reason why this is a setup. Oils, this is the same pattern that I was drawing. I have been drawing it in the last couple of videos that I did. We have just gotten tighter and tighter and tighter, and now we closed on this dragonfly doji right here that is known, I'm just gonna move my drawing off. Dragonfly doji, you can see it's just like a T. We don't even have a body to it. And this is known to be a bullish reversal candlestick. So that's something that is leading us to believe that this is a nice setup. It's pretty tight, and we closed on the dragonfly doji. So there we have oils. CXXI, we have filled the gap. We've come back down. We have a inverted hammer candlestick, which also could be a reversal candlestick. And we're forming this little bull flag type pattern. So this looks like a pretty decent setup to me as well. It might not be ready immediately. We could have some room to fill this in further. So sort of similar to CGC. This one's not as solid as the other ones. So this one in CGC could use some help from Sndl and the strength in the sector. And the last one I want to look at here is BFF. I don't even need to draw this. It's just so picture perfect. You can see that we have the same pattern that we've been looking at in the other tickers, but it's much more prominent. We have a nice big pole here and the nice pattern forming. We've gotten over this SMA 100, retraced a little bit, and now we're tightening up here and looking to see if we're going to break out. Now, even though I charted these breakouts and I did this video, it doesn't mean that these are going to break out tomorrow. Sometimes breakouts like this can stretch out, and then you basically end up just adjusting your lines a little bit and it forms a longer pattern. It's really just bringing your attention to this moment. It doesn't mean buy it immediately. A lot of the times I will wait till resistance breaks and then maybe start to add a little bit small if I want to just make sure that I'm in this position, or I will wait until it breaks out of the pattern completely. So these are just patterns to keep a watch of, but with the strength in the sector, they definitely will have more of my attention tomorrow. And also USMJ, all the different tickers in the USMJ, which we have a lot on the OTC and the CSE. I keep an eye on all those. They had a huge day today. So that's also something to keep in mind for this sector, is that we could possibly, I mean, they are kind of the same sector, but they are two different sectors at the same time. But because that one enjoyed strength today, we didn't have strength, really that much strength in the Canadian MJ sector. So we could see that tomorrow. Congrats to all you Sndl bulls. I know there's a lot out there holding and waiting for big things. And good luck to all the rest of the cannabis bulls.